ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 96.1 of I Got Gameplay. Yes, you see, you're spoilt twice from us because Michael Burhan couldn't contain this in one single episode. We're basically doing a very special episode today on Gamergate. And the reason we're talking about this is because of a awesome individual part of our panel, Mr. Lee Garisic. Lee, say hi to the public.
Hello, everyone.
Lee suggested about doing an episode on this because it's become such an important matter in the gaming industry. You know, you've seen advertisers leaving certain gaming sites. You've basically seen all the corruption and the issues going on in sites such as Kotaku and Polygon, and it's gotten to the point where it can't be ignored. So I've decided to put all the panel together. Hopefully we may have some guests on today, depending on what happens tonight as well. And go from there. So, we'll just introduce you to the rest of our crew today as well. We have the very lovely and very talented Anina Kasky. Anina, hello.
Evening. I'm feeling slightly outnumbered today because of what we're about to talk about, but I think I can hold my own.
Now, we also have with us today as well a gentleman with the name of Miguel Leon. You know him as the host of the Untitled Movie Show, of course. We know him as one of our former co-hosts of I Got Gameplay, and we're glad to have him back today. Miguel!
It's been a long time coming, but I'm back on IGG for at least tonight.
Yeah, and I know you've been going back and forth about this show, because the topic's very, very controversial.
Yeah, I at one point, I didn't want to come on just because of how really bad the situation has gotten, but I'm gonna brave through it, and I'm gonna try to bring my own perspective on this whole situation, hopefully.
And you know, as we've talked about kind of recently, we've seen how worse the situation has been getting. It's gotten to the point now where it can't be ignored. It's gotten very, very big at the same time.
Well, I mean, it can be ignored by the mainstream, but you know, we'll talk about that when we get into it.
And also, another host we got with us as well, a gentleman who's first time caller on I Got Gameplay, of course, but is a prominent individual on YouTube and in the gaming industry, is Mr. Sean Michelin. Sean, tell us where you're from.
I'm from, I was born in this place called North Reservoir, Labrador, in northeastern Canada there, but I'm still in the same province, but I'm on the island of Newfoundland now, in the west coast area of Corner Brook. Friends with a few in the gaming community. Some I've known pre-gaming community, like the completionist Derek. I was actually old college roommates with him, and I've been, friends with quite a few in the community for a long time. There, I was doing a lot of like live shows at Google Hangouts with people like Crow Retro Roadshow, Ryan King. I'd have people pop in like J3 Kilbits, Billy Chaser, people like that. Put the show on a bit of a park for now because I had to take care of a few different things there, moving and stuff like that, and retooling the show. But the show's going to be back hopefully by November at the latest. I'm on DSL right now. I'm actually just waiting for a good fiber optic connection because my upload's killing me for things.
Well, gentlemen, as well, we've got a couple of special guests on for tonight as well. We've got one who's patiently trying to sort out Skype problems, of course. But I can name you the other one. This person's been given in contact from me by my trusty friend here, Miguel Leon. He's a prominent person in the gaming industry and someone who's basically well outspoken on the Gamergate situation. He's Ashton Liu. Is that? Did I say that?
Yeah. You pronounced it pretty much pretty much accurately.
I am proud of myself. Ashton, this is Miguel, Anina, Sean, and also Mr. Lee Garisic, and welcome to our episode of I Got Gameplay.
Thanks for coming on short notice, by the way. It must have been hard, just being told about it. I would say within a day, I think Burhan sent you the message to see if you wanted to come on the show.
Yeah, I got off work early today, so I was able to come on. But I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
So, while we wait for our other special guest, hopefully, just waiting on confirmation there if the person's going to be on or not. So let's talk a little bit about the subject itself, because ladies and gents, we usually talk about gaming news and stuff, but I think the show tonight is going to be dedicated a lot more to this core subject. So, tell us, in your own words, Ashton, what is Gamergate? For those who don't know, for the public out there who have been living under a rock for the past year or so.
Well, for me, Gamergate was to show and expose the abuses and harassment that's been going on from the game journalism industry. When I first heard about it, it was just like, dirty journalism, and that wasn't really anything new to me for when I first heard about it, because everybody knew there was like, money exchanging hands and things like that. But what really motivated me to get involved was when I found out about their very vicious and malicious treatment of a group of suicidally depressed individuals on a specific forum that wanted to be left alone. They wanted to, just suffer in silence, be left to their own devices. And these journalists had, threw them under the bus in order to promote the game of, one of their friendly acquaintances. And that just really rubbed me the wrong way.
Is that the Depression Quest game?
Yeah, the Depression Quest game. Right now, Gamergate has grown such that they don't want Depression Quest or its creator involved in it in any way. So I'm going to remain vague on the details of, all the happenings before that. But that was the primary event that motivated me to join the cause.
So, in terms of like the industry itself, and the way that the industry has basically turned around and how it's been exposed in a sense, because we've had issues like stemming from Kotaku, from Polygon, and journalists basically doing stuff which morally would be construed as kind of I wouldn't even say ambiguous. I'd say rather negative. It's wrong. You wouldn't do it whatsoever. But because of the support that certain individuals are getting in terms of, from these sites, because I know Kotaku, Polygon still support, Anita Sarkeesian, who apparently I was told by, was it yourself, Sean, that Anita...
Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. That Anita herself is going to be in Times Magazine.
I think that they had her on their online or something like that. It was either Time or CNN, one of those Time Warner blogged parts of it. Actually, I do think it was Time. I was seeing it shown in a couple of the different groups that are on Facebook now dedicated towards Gamergate. Actually, I don't know if I have that up in front of me. I thought that I was going to have a few more show notes here to be prepared.
But yeah, she's basically grown to the point where she's made a kind of a living off of negatively talking about the game industry and gamers per se, talking negatively about games and saying that with her Tropes versus Games series, how basically gaming is a boys club. I remember once she went on CNN, talking about how the trolls attacked her, and I remember the report actually said to her, "Don't feed the trolls." Do you understand the term, "Don't feed the trolls"? But she's also conveyed, more times than any that she's not a gamer. So yet she's getting so much support from these sites. What's the reason behind that? What do you feel the reason is behind that, Ashton? Do you think that it's because she's building a lot of traffic for these sites, or does she have people that she knows within these kind of camps that are showing her the support?
Well, my understanding is that these sites, they generate ad revenue by constant clicks on their articles. And what happens is that they write these controversial articles that, it doesn't even have to include Anita Sarkeesian. It's just that, I have no problem with people talking about things like that in games, but when you have constant barrages of these articles and
clickbait.
Clickbait, basically. They invite people to be outraged or things like that because they make such wild claims about video games or things that things involved in those video games, and they invite people to be outraged and they make comments. They make comments on these articles, and they keep coming back to those articles to keep commenting and arguing with each other, and so it's from my understanding that's constant ad revenue going into these sites. So when they write these outrageous articles, it's I'm not sure if they believe it themselves or if they do or don't. Doesn't matter to me, but it's a constant, baiting for clicks to increase their ad revenue, as far as I understand it.
Because I don't. Yeah, go on, Miguel.
It's essentially the model that Gawker's pretty much adopted. If you look at any one of their sites that they own, that's basically they're nothing but clickbaiting and just flame wars at this point in their comment sections. I mean, that's why I stopped going on Kotaku, let alone any of the other ones. Is the only one that I honestly go on at this point. I think that's under the Gawker model, Lifehacker, right? That's under the Gawker banner.
Yeah, I believe it's in the Gawker ring or whatever the hell you call it.
Yeah, I used to visit Kotaku somewhat frequently, and I'd participate in their comments. And when they made, for example, back when the Dragon's Crown controversy broke out, it was less of a controversy and more of a few game journalists got together and decided there was a controversy. But when I got into when that controversy broke out, I was on Kotaku and I put in the comment. I mean, the thing is, when the comments, when they put in the comments, when they get people to go post in the comments, they want people to post like multiple different threads so that people will keep coming back to check those different threads. And what happened when I was there during the Dragon's Crown controversy was I posted a long post that said that, well, there's objectification going on both ways. You have women with their Twilight and their Free, the swimming anime that had just come out that summer, I believe. And, all these different, anime or movies or books, literature, comics that also, sexualize the male form. Not that I have anything wrong with that. Not that I think there's anything wrong with that, because I watch Free myself and I enjoy it very much on a technical aspect. But I made this long post comparing the two situations, and I believe it was one of the longest posts, the longest threads there. And after a while, they, I'm not sure if they deleted it or they auto-saged it, basically, and made it non-viewable. So that they could promote other threads for other, other arguments so that people would keep coming back to those other threads instead of mine. I'm not sure what happened there, but, it's kind of transparent now how they want their articles and their comments to be managed.
Yeah, oddly enough, on their Facebook, they're not deleting anything now. People are actually posting their displeasure with them and that they're unsubscribing Kotaku, et cetera, and they're tearing them to shreds now, the comments and the posts by fans or whatever, and they're not even bothering to delete them now, which it surprises me because they were usually in there to do a quick snide remark, although you can see that they got a couple of shill accounts or whatever, and they're just trying to praise up Kotaku every so often and try to bolster the numbers, I guess. But now the writing's on the wall now, and it's kind of out in the public. Even 4chan has suffered from this now. 4chan Moot himself has been torn to shreds about this because of the fact that he's been trying to censor anything to do with Gamergate on 4chan. Everybody now goes to 8chan or Infinite Chan, as many call it. Right. And there's a lot more free speech over there. There's been what they call mass exodus. The day that 4chan does what they call it now.
I think a big problem is when that Kotaku and these other sites, they assumed that we were morons and that we didn't know what they were doing. And what was really happening was we knew what they were doing. We were just too lazy to call them out on it. It was too much effort for us to go through. But now that they've, overplayed their hand and, kind of, overstepped their boundaries, everybody already knew what they were going on. And now that they have crossed a certain line that should not be crossed, everybody is really angry with them.
Do you think it's a situation? You said laziness, and I don't think it's laziness, honestly. Well, in terms of the whole controversy, to me, what
really
it is,
laziness, maybe more apathy. I mean, we read these sites for leisure, and we just want to read it, get some information, and go on about our day. So it's more apathy, less laziness, I suppose.
I don't think it's more laziness. I think it's just one of those situations of, maybe apathy might have been it, but in terms of companies censoring their comments and whatnot, I mean, it's one of those things where it's expected to an extent, maybe not to this extreme, and I think that's probably what triggered a lot of people's controversy is they kind of pushed a little bit too hard with that. I mean, in this day and age, with the amount of information that gets put out, you kind of expect there to be this, invisible hand that kind of, just kind of manipulates things in a way. And if you've been on the internet long enough, you're just kind of beholden to it in a way. But, it does go a little bit too far. And I think what we're seeing is that hand going way too far with it.
Right. Well, they did have that invisible hand. It's called the Game Journos mailing list.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I've had to moderate message boards and forums before, and there was always the argument that this is private property, and your first constitutional right does not apply here because it's a private space technically, and we can we can decide what kind of discussion goes on in that space, because you don't want, like, say, white supremacist talk clogging up the works.
Yeah, there has to be at least a level of human decency there, even with an open forum. Yeah.
Right. But what these people have done is that they have basically cleaned their comments and their forums so that only to preserve, I want to say something like more like ideological purity, so that only comments that toe the line that they want to be towed will be allowed.
They basically turned it into an echo chamber.
Yes, an echo chamber. Some people call it a hug box, whatever you want to call it. It's, only one type of opinion is allowed, and that's not, and they call it a discussion, but that kind of environment is not really conducive to a healthy discussion.
Yeah, the internet's not really supposed to be like that. The internet is a place where you can talk, mutually, it's one of the things that bugs me in terms of the way that these sites are censoring people, because we've now had stuff that's uncovered. I think Total Biscuit recently uncovered something where Warner was trying to give people copies of Shadow of Mordor, but only if you had to just basically surrender the rights to your videos and your ad revenue and also anything that you say, and you had to promote the game positively through your channels. And it's basically taking away any journalistic integrity from you.
It's the EGM controversy all over again.
Yeah,
right,
it's
Microsoft last year.
It's trying to take away any credibility that gamers have, because most of us go to the internet. I know I'm one that started going to the internet, looking at gaming reviews, looking at playthroughs, looking at, different channels to see what I can see in terms of what games are out there and if anybody likes them or not, so I can develop an opinion. I became a gaming journalist because of what I've seen from sites like the Happy Console Gamer, from sites that give good and honest reviews, that just want to sit down and talk about how fun games are. Then you got these guys trying to police the gaming sources when they have no right to. What gives these guys the right to police anything?
See,
Money.
The thing is, these people, if it was just the censorship and the closing down of comments, most people probably wouldn't have raised such a huge stink about it. It's probably a combination of that and the blatant unprofessionalism that they have displayed for their readership that really inflamed the readership. And in addition, they have made themselves kind of the gatekeepers to the game journalism world, where, someone like Leigh Alexander can say, oh, well, I'm Megaphone and I will ruin your career if you don't toe our line. So because they are so influential in the game journalism world, they accuse men or boys of gatekeeping gaming against women. But now they are gatekeeping anybody who doesn't toe their ideological line against, in game journalism. So it's a very obvious double standard, and it's very hypocritical of them, which rubs a lot of people the wrong way. That added with their blatant insulting and harassment of their readership and people who just don't want to get involved really cross the line for a lot of people.
But that's the thing. Where does the line, go when you're crossing that line to the point where they're trying to police as many people as they can, and it gets to the point where nobody's going to have a voice, or they're trying to stop gamers in general from having a voice. There was even talk at one point where Sarkeesian and this other person basically wanted to denounce the term gamer.
Oh,
Right,
call them players instead or something like that.
Yeah.
or Gamer Plus. Yeah. The thing is, there's no there is no solid line right now, because the thing is they've constantly changed where the line is, slowly but surely changed where the line is, so that when the people in Gamergate discovered that they have crossed the line, they were already at the doorstep. The line was supposed to be like far, far away from the doorstep, but they kept kind of changing that line subtly until they were at the doorstep. And now that they're at the doorstep, we have to push back.
One question. Do you think, because gaming's slowly becoming more and more mainstream, that this will get better or worse? This whole thing.
I'm sorry, did someone want to speak?
Ashton, I think she's directing that one at you,
Oh,
mate.
really? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I want to hear everyone's views. Just
Right.
general. What do you guys
I think with the Gamergate pushback, this actually might get better, because they know that where the line is now, and they know they can't cross that line. But as to whether it'll get better or worse in the long run, it just means that we have to stay vigilant about what they do in the future, because they're going to be smarter now. They're going to know where the line is. They're going to know what they need to do to go in under the radar. So we really have to stay vigilant and keep our eyes on them like a hawk.
What about you, Miguel? What do you think?
I think it's going to get worse, and I think we're really going to see that once this issue really starts to go mainstream. And here's why, and this is kind of why I think there's been a lot of pro SJW bandwagoning. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's social justice warrior bandwagoning. Is we've been going through this cultural shift for the past few years where gaming has not so much gaming, but geek culture in general has kind of become in vogue. It's become the new hip thing. We've seen the hipster movement happen, and something I've noticed
Big Bang
with
Theory and things like that.
Yeah, and I've noticed with every single big cultural movement, there's always an equally and opposite backlash to it. And I think one of the big reasons why we're seeing a lot of people bandwagoning with the social justice warriors is because of that. You're seeing gamers for years of being made cool, and they've kind of had this new renaissance of sorts in pop culture. It was bound to happen sooner or later that there was going to be a backlash, that people were going to start to rebel against, the geek culture in general, just because it's been so popular. And I think once this thing really hits mainstream, I have a feeling you're going to see a lot of people probably bandwagon against the whole geek culture thing, just out of just the fact that it's become the popular thing. People love to hate what's popular. So I think once you start seeing a lot of people who probably got into it because it was just the popular thing, you're going to see a lot of those people probably attacking attacking geek culture in general, and that's going to be really where the big issues come about. I think you're going to see a lot of faux hipsters probably do a massive heel turn on geek culture in general, and that's what worries me, long term at least.
What about you?
Oh, sorry.
No worries, Sean. What about you, Lee? You've been very vocal about this previously. Do you think that's the case?
Yes, I do, to an extent. There's 2 points that I really think should be made clear. One being the different things that are happening with the game industry and journalism in general has a lot to do with the overall technology aspect of the world today. A lot of what's happening in politics in America, and I'm sure all over the world, with net neutrality and all that stuff, and people trying to get their nitpicking out of this and that. That's very, very important to realize. So I don't think game journalism is immune to that. But also in thinking about the overall issue and where to place blame, and this is going to sound kind of vague, but it goes into capitalism and right-wing Republican gamers. And I mean that not in the political sense, but in the conservative sense, where I didn't really have an understanding for it previously until I read this really interesting article, because I'm a very liberal person. I love everyone equally. I'm for equality and all that stuff. But I also am the first person to call bullshit whenever somebody tries pushing something a little too far, and I think it's unnecessary. But I will say, whenever I meet somebody else who says they're a gamer, they get a snarky look. Because I've been someone who's been playing games since the early 80s, and I've been always reading the magazines, and I've been enraptured in the gaming industry as a whole. I remember winter, summer, CES, and then it blew my mind whenever we got E3, and I used to look forward to all that stuff. I used to go through multiple publications, and I really feel that I have a good solid hold on being a hardcore gamer. So it's natural for me to kind of question, oh, you've been playing Call of Duty for the last 8 years, and you're a hardcore gamer. That being said, that's what the whole nerd culture has developed. It has been completely geared towards, the geek culture is I don't want to say, sound, to categorize everybody, but they're generally people that, don't fit in with the norm. They usually aren't people that, there's the stigma of the antisocial. I mean, I'm a social nerd. But also, I realize that the things I do and say kind of are frowned upon by many other people I know. In my car, the music I listen to is remade video game music, or sometimes direct video game music, because I enjoy it. It's who I am. It's what I like. And I've had many people make comments about that because I do not fit the norm. So that being said, that already has this kind of like, you're a part of this small group, and you're cool because you do what you want. Nerds are cool. Everybody knows that now. So whenever people try to make that circle bigger around, myself or my friends that say, okay, well, gamers are these people too, then obviously there's that quick little, you're stepping in on my turf feeling. That's where I get the conservative right-wing idealism that keeps, for lack of better words, even though I'm not sexist, racist, or anything, by doing that, I'm acting like a conservative trying to prevent things from changing. So that is the basis that easily fuels whenever there's whenever something else goes into change, it's really easy to spark a fuse. And gamers are really quick to jump behind different causes. Now, these causes that we're discussing right now is the integrity of video game journalism. Well, if we were in a society that held integrity above a Ferrari, then that would kind of alleviate that problem. If money wasn't an issue for a journalist or any of the guys starting out on YouTube, which I do the same. I go and I watch all the YouTube channels. I love all those guys. I'm going to be checking out a few after the show as well tonight. But of course money is going to speak to them. And everybody has a price. When it comes down to it, there is something that everybody needs or something that everybody wants. And that right there is the basis fueled by capitalism. So you have people dangling money in front of volatile gamers, which might not be any of us because, we're a good level-headed bunch of people, but we don't represent every single gamer today. Whenever you start, dangling stuff in front of people, a fuse can get lit and sparks can fly. And that is exactly, I just basically described the basis for what happened with Gamergate, starting from the Zoe Quinn incident all the way through up until the Gamergate movement. That is what sparked it. It was manipulated in the background because it sucks to say it, but gamers were easily manipulated.
Okay, let me ask you, Sean, as well, lastly on this. Do you agree with Lee's stance on this? Do you think that it's basically just going to get bad rather than get better?
Well, it's like the old saying goes, it is going to get worse before it gets better because you got a lot of he said, she said in that. And when we were doing our pre-show warm-up, I mentioned about Game Sutra having Intel bow out on them, and then now that School of Technology and Video Game Design is now bowed out on them for advertiser revenue. And Game Sutra turned around and tried to say that the Gamergate movement was a hate group. So they're trying to insinuate pretty inflammatory remarks to the point where this is turning into mudslinging at some points. And people aren't being rational about it. And then you got, like I brought it up before, the invisible hand, the mailing list. And you have Mood at 4chan pretty much trying to silence it too. It's like Gamergate is not a subject we're going to have around. Mods are informed to, if Gamergate comes up, to delete and even ban people from 4chan. That's why you have people going over to 8chan now, or Infinite Chan. And you've got, some people in the mainstream as well. Here in Canada, we have the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Company, and on CBC Radio, it's usually the national feed in the morning, and there's this show called The Current with Anna Maria Tremonti. And there was an article she had up on their blog about feminism and gaming and that, and they were actually, I don't know if they ever did, but they said that they were going to actually interview Anita Sarkeesian about this as well. And you're going to get a lot of misinformation and a lot of ends, even in just the YouTube gaming community and journalism and that. Like we were also talking about, I'd mentioned ScrewTech. Their Friday had to say their little bit there. Sean Hines, I think his name is the presenter on there. And he was still thinking it was about feminism. It was never about feminism. Feminism was used as a smokescreen for the most part. And, it was a symptom, not a cause. Or what, if that makes sense. And like I said, it will get worse before it gets better, but then people are going to learn to be more choosy because the laundry's out now for everybody to see. The mailing list made it out. And a lot of the snide little retorts that a lot of them try to comment and say are falling on deaf ears and that. And it's people are going to start voting, are going to start speaking with their wallets and with their email because Intel and now that School of Game Design dropping them for advertising is due to the letter writing campaign now that the Gamergate and Not Your Shield movement has been using. And I've been trying to stay a bit silent on it myself. I fall under the Not Your Shield because I'm not a white male. I'm Aboriginal, as the term would be here in Canada. I'm Native. The old term would be Eskimo. It's Inuit or Inuk. But they try to use that term, check your privilege and all this stuff and things like that. And there are going to be a lot of cannonballs lobbed around before things, the smoke clears and that. And, you're not going to see Kotaku or anybody like that go out of business, but they're going to have a lot of once bitten, twice shy now attitudes towards how they're going to be treating pretty much their demographic, who they're making money off with all this clickbait and things like that. But, it will, like everybody here has said pretty much, it's going to get worse before it gets better, but it will get better because people are going to learn they have a choice as well. They don't have to go to Kotaku. They don't have to go to Game of Sutra. They don't have to go to these ones. They can be picky about who they go to. I stopped going to Kotaku long ago. I saw the writing on the wall a couple of years ago. Kotaku trying to influence the news with things like, the big hate fucking Nintendo when the Wii U came out. Pardon my language. But I mean, like they were trying to say that the Wii U was going to be a bomb. It's going to be a failure. It's going to be another Virtual Boy. And the numbers are saying otherwise because the Xbox One is butting the big one pretty much. But,
that's most because their own publicity campaign. But yeah, I agree. It's, in terms of like, companies and what they're doing, this is a big kind of thing because it's not about, gamers versus women. It's more about the fact that journalists so-called journalists are basically abusing their positions to try and, say that they're bigger than those that basically have been supporting them. Now, and the one thing I was gonna, go on, Anina?
No, that was actually me that
go on,
did that. And that's what scares me about this thing going mainstream is that I think when it does hit the mainstream and you start seeing a lot of these, news sites carrying it, that's the only thing they're going to focus on. They're not going to focus on the whole journalism thing in gaming. I think they are going to focus on the feminism, and the reason is it kind of goes back to what we were talking about. It's what's the juicier thing for your average person to read about? A bunch of gaming bloggers, being abused online, or this whole men versus women, neckbeards against the against girls thing. They're gonna latch on to the ugliness of it, and like I said, it is gonna get bad, and I hope it gets better, but knowing the landscape of our mainstream news, at least in America, because I know we got people from around the country on this show, I don't think it's going to get better. I think you're going to start seeing a lot of negativity, and it's hard to say what's going to happen. I mean, I hope that maybe it creates a cleansing almost, where you start seeing more reputable. You start seeing the journalism in gaming maybe taken a little bit more seriously out of this. But I don't know. I mean, I hate to see the negativity in it, but I've been fooled once before when it comes to news.
Well, I'd like to interject here. The thing is, what a lot of people don't realize that it's not really about hating what's cool right now. What they want to do is establish control of the narrative and control of the demographic. What I believe happened, and this is what happened in the comics industry as well. They saw a space that they believed was predominantly male, and so it was basically an unknown factor to them, and they wanted to go in and change that environment to suit them, to better suit their methods of control. So they kind of insidiously insert themselves into the environment and kind of change it subtly over time, so that the environment will be more suited to their information control. And that's what you're right, and that's how the mainstream media will be controlled as well. But
you completely hit the nail on the head there. I'm sorry to interrupt you like that, but that is exactly right, because the same thing happened to the movie industry as well as the music industry. And the video game industry is young as a whole, so we have to handle it.
Yeah, well, video gaming is young, so that's why they were able to get their claws into it. But as to whether it'll get better or worse, the thing is, when Emma Watson made her feminist speech in the UN, because we're going away from the gaming journalism now. We're talking about how these news sites, how these journalists are going to control the narrative. And when Emma Watson was making her feminist speech at the UN, she mentioned that the general view of feminism now is that it was man-hating. Man-hating as a movement, because she believed that everybody had the wrong impression that it was man-hating. And she's right, everybody does think it's man-hating. But she never addressed what the reason was everybody thought it was man-hating. So you know that there's already a cultural and social backlash against this kind of information control. We have on Tumblr and Facebook, there's this group called Women Against Feminism. And it is just this group of women who thinks that feminism has become a movement of hate against men. And they don't find that palatable to their, individual philosophy, because they actually love people, whether it's men or women or gay or trans or, what have you. And they think
equalism.
Equalism. And they think that feminism has betrayed that expectation. And you can see that this is kind of like, it's come almost like a trend. A lot of people believe that feminism now is doing to feminists what the Republican Party a few years ago have done to conservatives. It's robbing them of their credibility right now. Slowly but surely, it's doing so. So what we need to do is just remain kind of vigilant on that front.
Well, I mean, you got people like Sarkeesian popping up, and then you got real feminists in that, and you swear to God, if Annie Leibovitz saw this woman or anybody like that, they'd just roll their eyes at her. Because, what's her...
Yeah, like Professor Summers.
My few cents as, well, I would call myself a feminist, but also I have a love-hate relationship with that word, because to me, feminism is not man-hating. I wouldn't be on this podcast if I did that.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And I grew up with two brothers, and even growing up with two brothers, I would never. Why would I hate men when I've got two amazing brothers who, shape my view of men? And I wish feminism wasn't a word that is now, oh no, don't say you're a feminist. I hate that, and I don't like women against feminism at all. And people, when you say the word feminist, people think of, women with crew cuts and tattoos and who dress very,
Doc Martens and blood and things like that.
Right.
Exactly. They're very masculine. They're very aggressive. And And I think
Play a lot of golf.
any woman that is outspoken is attacked, which I've found as well, because I will say my own opinion, and that I think the feminism issue is an issue that should be considered in this whole Gamergate thing. It's not the whole thing. It's not just about feminism. Definitely not just about it. But it is an issue that should be discussed.
Right.
Because, it's an issue that's ongoing now because he or she and all this. And,
as for the, I'm sorry. Go on.
Can I just,
Yeah, go on, please.
I had a cohesive point.
I'm sorry.
To find it. No, it's fine. It's fine. And yeah, I think part of me that makes me angry in this whole Anissa Sarkeesian thing. I don't agree with all her views. I don't, but I respect the fact that she should be able to say her own views. And what makes me really angry is the type of abuse she gets for posting a video. She gets, rape threats and all this, and that's absolutely awful.
Yeah.
And that proves that, feminism is still a thing that we really need to talk about. Because I don't think men, when they post videos, get rape threats and things like that. I don't think that happens. I feel like, even in this day and age, if a woman has a strong opinion, it is attacked and go, we need to shut her up, we need to, in any way possible. And you just saw these horrific tweets. And I'm gonna say again, I don't support all her views, but I don't think she deserves the onslaught that she got.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's true. There should be a rational discussion.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing about the internet that people, I think, are starting to. I still think there's something about the internet that most of these people don't understand. Is with anything, no matter what opinion you have, it's not so much a feminist thing or a race thing or anything like that. What it is you're always going to have this. It's like skimming a pool. You're always going to have this top layer of ignorance with whatever you say, because when you throw an opinion out on the internet, you have to understand that there's going to be an unrational layer of hate that you got to skim over. It's not directed at you or your opinion. It's just there, It's kind of the John Gabriel rule. When you give people a forum and complete and utter anonymity, they're going to basically devolve into monkeys, basically.
That's where the finger quote right-wing Republican gamer group, the cream of the crop not so much the cream of the crop, but that film on the top.
But it's not just that. It's not just that as well.
That's where the fuse gets ignited.
Yeah. No, I agree. Everyone gets abuse.
I think that there is a certain, there is a layer of hatred every time you put something out there on the internet.
Yeah.
And the contention right now is that who has a thicker layer of that hatred they have to, sift through before they find reasonable, rational discourse. And that's definitely something that should be addressed. That's definitely is. Nobody is denying that. What's problematic is the way the movement is working now, to the detriment of people like Annie Emma here, or, Professor Christina Summers, is that they're going about it in completely the wrong way. It's not going to solve anything. All it's going to do is foment more hatred, more, antagonism. And, and that layer of hatred, that thick layer of hatred, everybody thinks, or, it's up for debate who has a thicker layer of hatred. But that layer of hatred that everybody's going to face, nobody's going to do anything about that while, we're fighting each other over this.
You really can't, though, at this point. The internet is so big and so many people are using it now. Like I said, no matter what opinion you have, you're always going to deal with that. There really is no way to really sift through it, aside from going back to the whole information control thing where you just only have certain people add to that layer. It's kind of unfortunate. I do want one last thing I want to say about this. You were talking about how, a lot of people have kind of contorted the meaning of feminist and things like that. I kind of see it, to me, it very much mirrors the whole political thing. What we've been going through with the political field here in America within the last 10 years is it's basically for the benefit of those that take advantage of the system. They've basically boiled it down to one concept. It's us versus them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why you have so many people that are rabid for or against this, because it's basically, it's basically a war that you don't have to try to be a part to really earn. It's basically men versus women. You mean I could be better than this group and all I have to do is just have a specific gender?
Miguel, you're a genius. That is perfectly it. You summed it all up, because as gamers, whenever we see something like the beginning of what started with Gamergate, that was fueled by the hatred of those people that I mentioned before. And because us as gamers, we're notorious for we'll skim a title, we'll read a quick bit of an article, we'll watch a YouTube video. It's so easy for us to hop on the bandwagon and join as gamers, because we're all gamers and we lock arms, even though we are inadvertently marching against a cause which was against feminism, even though we didn't even realize it. So the basis of it was the feminism, and we all kind of got up in arms and said, oh, well, this is about game journalism. Like the episode of South Park where they try to free Hat.
The thing is, though,
out of hand.
You've got to see about it this way. Sarkeesian, a lot of people don't understand, the most reason Sarkeesian gets hate isn't because that she's a woman. It's because, one, she started a Kickstarter that basically stated that she wanted to create something that had these feminist principles, and she wanted to create it on a very unique and big budget, right? She was going to play these games herself and give it a critical analysis. She firstly used Wikipedia as a point of reference, so she never actually analysed these games herself because she never played them. So that's part of the faux pas she's playing. Two, it's the fact that she was stealing other people's videos and Let's Plays to put into her videos, which she shouldn't have done in the first place. Anyone can do it using Clip Converter, but you shouldn't do without giving people the appropriate credit at least. And three, she then uses it to basically spiel a hate campaign about how her own sort of version of why men suck. It's kind of one of those things where she uses feminism as a leeway so that she can basically start her own campaign.
I do get that same feeling. Every video that I've seen of hers, she does make a few moot points here and there, depending on opinion, but the basis of everything does seem to be fueled by a hatred, and I don't like that.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
That's really interesting to hear, because I watched a few of her episodes, and like I said before, I kind of see where you're coming. My basic reaction is, okay, kind of see where you're coming. I don't agree with that. So I'm not terribly for or against. Like you said, a couple of mute points, but I didn't see that hate, and I find that really interesting because obviously it's not aimed at me. So for me to hear that you guys see it as hateful is really interesting, because I actually haven't, because I'm not the target group, as you know. So thank you for kind of opening my eyes to that side of it as well.
Yeah.
I never even thought about that. But I mean, I will be the first one to say, men are assholes. I mean, just in the social structure scenario, you put 5 men in a room, throw in a case of beer, and people are going to start, knocking each other over, wrestling, having tough guy. I mean, men just generally are like that. Now, it's difficult being a gamer and being a man at the same time, and me trying to be as good and open and equal as possible, and then seeing that and seeing whenever she makes a perspective where I don't view it as, oh, well, this should be a little bit more pro-woman, I see it as this should be a little less male. And I defend video games as an art form. I don't, it's like looking at the Mona Lisa and saying, well, there should be a male Mona Lisa. That's sexist. It's like, no, I look at a video game as a work of art. I put full respect in the creative process, and there should be women that are out there developing games that have a more female perspective. There should be. I have nothing against that. But to take, yes, the video games might be more of a boys' club than anyone would like to admit, and there are definitely setbacks for a woman who wants to try to get into that industry, I'm well aware of them. I could cite many references dating back the last 20 years. But whenever we get that and we have a situation where people try to get up in arms, it's always quick for the gamers to side with the gamers. It just seems like those gamers that fueled in there are, the more of the male demographic who feel like they're the lone wolf, who have been a nerd in the geek culture and they know more than everybody else and all those other stereotypes. But yes, that is interesting. I never even thought of it from your perspective either.
Yeah.
Well, see, from this point of view as well, say, for instance, I post a video and then I decide to censor your opinion and say, well, I'm not going to have anyone post comments. Don't you think that's kind of playing against the people that support you? That if you're going to put across an opinion, no one's allowed to debate that with you?
Yeah, I always find it suspicious when comments aren't allowed. I do, whether it's...
Unless you're PewDiePie.
If you see someone being like, oh, you're a dick, or you should burn in hell, most sane people will just think, oh, well, the poster's a dick, rather than being on the side of the person hurling abuse, especially when it's full of typos. You just go, well, you've got one brain cell to rub together, and that's what you got.
You're just like, isn't faggot spelled with 2 G's?
Yeah, it's the catch-22. Like I said, it's either you could keep it open and wave the flag of freedom of speech and all that, but at the same time, you also have to deal with the constant barrage of just foul-mouthed, illiterate people basically spewing out garbage. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I know people make fun of him a lot, but I understand why Irate Gamer doesn't allow comments on his forum, because some of the hatred that goes towards him, I think, is a tad bit overly dramatized.
Yeah, I mean, I don't post online, well, not yet anyway, but if I did, I'd probably think long and hard if I allowed comments or not.
Well, I think that...
Even though I always think, oh, why aren't there any comments? But I know my own sensitivity, and I'd be there going, why does this dickhead think I'm a dick just because I'm stupid like that?
Just to kind of elaborate on that point, I want to kind of run a mental exercise for this, and it's kind of a metaphor I thought of to myself, because I'm Chinese, I'm ethnically Chinese. If there was an artist that drew a series of paintings or artwork or things like that, calling for, let's say, the genocide of all Chinese people, and let's say that he didn't engage the public or any accusations of racism. What the default assumption would be that he's a racist. However, if he went on to engage the public and say that, well, I drew this series of racially charged artwork, literature, what have you, in order to see how society would react to it, and if society accepted it, that would mean that there is an undercurrent of racism in our society. A lot of people would be more receptive to his work because it's an art form on a social scale. But what Anita Sarkeesian has done is that she presents her opinion in the guise of an academic. She does not allow people to question her. She will not engage on a public space, and all of her supporters just mob anybody who even dares to criticize her, even academically, without any sort of insults or, ill-informed behavior. And that really rubs a lot of people the wrong way because, if you're going to criticize, you have to be able to defend your position. That's the first rule of debate.
And that's the problem. Sarkeesian has never defended herself or her position.
Right.
All she said is, people are attacking me.
And some people believe that it's because that she's not really the person writing this, or that, she can't defend her own views because she doesn't know how to. So there's always going to be that, doubt there as long as she doesn't engage in a public discourse.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I feel she's in it she's definitely in it for the money. She's registered her site as a charity, based on the fact that, she believes that the Sarkeesian Effect is a charitable organization. Don't know how the hell that happens. I don't know how the Americans register charities, but she's basically being paid, donations to, on her site for her to make these videos. She has a Patreon account. She got her the Kickstarter money. She is making a lot of money from what she's doing, and she's being an internet troll by the biggest sense and purpose of what she's doing. So she keeps putting out these videos spewing hate. She knows that people are going to continue to contribute.
Isn't it funny how it all circles back to capitalism?
It is. It's a bad thing.
Capitalism is, if someone wants to make money off of, giving, I don't want to say idiots, but, less informed people what they want, then if there's no real harm being done, I have no real problem with that. Kind of like the placebo effect. If these people think that this is something they're getting their money's worth. But to do that while also, kind of, because she also has this kind of subtle undercurrent of hatred that a lot of people have pointed out and seems to escape a lot of other people. It's why there's so much resentment over debacles like this.
It's funny. I'm not going to make any friends with this comment, but I think it really resonated profoundly. If you think about it, not in a disrespectful way, but I had a conversation with a very respected friend of mine, and they mentioned that Anita Sarkeesian, she does the videos, and I said, well, yeah, and she did a Kickstarter, and she's making a profit. And then I looked up the numbers. I don't have the figures in front of me, but it was something like she was asking for $1,000, but she ended up getting 300,000, maybe 150,000. She got multiple of what she was asking for. So my friend had stated, well, maybe there's a good reason if there's that much funding being given to them for that cause. And I said, yeah, but you have to also look at the flip coin. I mean, didn't the United States fund Al-Qaeda in the 80s? I mean, they were fighting for a good cause. How could that ever come back? Or how could there ever be ulterior motives behind the scenes or behind the money? I mean, that's not possible, right?
This is the big thing here. It comes to the fact where she's using a cause to make herself money financially. If you've seen the videos that she did previously talking about opening up her own business and want to be an entrepreneur, she is manipulating.
There was a convention she was at only a couple of weeks ago, and it was mostly bloody venture capitalists who were in the audience. Yeah. And she was giving like a talk and everything.
Yeah, XOXO Fest.
So
there you go.
Just so I'm clear, you guys, I don't really have an opinion, so that's why I'm asking on this this aspect. You don't think she actually believes the things she's advocating?
No.
Did Jimmy Swaggart?
She might. I mean, no one can really know what another person is thinking 100%. But the fact that she does not engage in public discourse, does not defend her opinions, and even constructive criticism is shouted down, it really paints the picture of either someone who is so confident in their own opinions that they can't accept criticism, or someone who does not know their own material well enough to defend it.
Well, she also has her own little army of white knights, so to speak, and it really makes you think of more like a televangelist in a lot of ways, that there shouldn't be any accountability in their mind towards what they're doing. They have their own agenda. It reminds me of, I'm a product of liberal arts college, and in my first year there, we were in the sculpture studio, and one of my fellow classmates addressed our instructor, Beatty, and said, Beatty, can I listen to my Walkman right now? It's not a Walkman, it's a Walk person. And he held it up, and it says Sony Walkman on it. She's like, well, I don't agree with that. I don't think you should call it that. That's your belief. That's cool, but you shouldn't be enforcing that on me and forcing me to believe it and not giving me a reason why. You're not.
That's just stupid.
Yeah, people, and that's kind of the problem that I have with this whole thing, and that's one of the things that bug me about the feminist aspect of this is that there are issues. I will admit there are issues that need to be addressed, but because of the fact, going back to what I said about the whole bandwagoning hipster kind of thing, and it kind of ties into several things. It ties into the hipster bandwagoning. It ties into the whole us versus them war mindset. You have a lot of screaming people on this side who are going into this they're not screaming at it because of the issues. It goes back to the whole us versus them thing. They're just bandwagoning and having all this passion and anger, but they're not so much angry at the issues. They're just kind of angry at, it's us, at the whole us versus them aspect. And if this was really about the issues, it would be fine, but you have all these people that are going on to it, and they're not addressing the issues. They're just mudslinging. And I think that's the problem.
It's diluting the pull. Because people are being manipulated and used against each other. Because I made the comment a little while back that I never played God of War because, that is a very fictional portrayal of men who have to have multiple women and solve all their problems with violence and, are chiseled and constantly shirtless. So that offends me. I make that comment, and that is a silly comment. And I do feel that whenever females make the claims for certain games, I'm not talking about like DOA beach volleyball or anything, but for certain games where they overly feminize a woman, yes, I can agree with certain parts of it, but there are many females that are very strong and very not sexified in video games that are very, very much swept under the rug. What it stems back to is the controversy. They want the controversy. They want the fight. And people like Anita, again, some of the points are okay, but some of them are not. And the points that are not are diluting the entire pool of feminism. Because I was told, and this resonated well with me, feminism is not men versus women. Feminism is women versus the establishment against the norms of society. By us being manipulated into thinking it's men versus women, we are inadvertently fighting the battle for the establishment on their side to fight change.
True. That is so true. That's how I feel exactly. I have nothing against men, but I have a lot against, gender stereotypes and treatment and establishment and all that. And in gaming, I've played male-orientated games my entire life. Some of them I don't play because I didn't like them. Like Grand Theft Auto is too sexist for me, but I'm not going to stop anyone playing it. Play it. My boyfriend plays it.
Well,
go ahead. But I personally don't like it. I'd love to see some more games with, female protagonists, but I don't want people to stop making the current games. That would be stupid as well.
Well, it's a $1.3 billion industry.
Exactly.
You're going to get a lot of money for Call of Duty. You're going to get a lot of money for Assassin's Creed and people like that. And then people decried, was it Assassin's Creed Unity because they said, oh, well, there's no female characters in there. And the developer said, well, that we'd have to spend a bit more time making a female character. And another person pops in, oh, not that much time, but it's like you're trying to please everybody at the same time sometimes, and some people decry you when you can't quite do that. And then, they try to make an issue out of nothing. They even try to say how Miss Pac-Man is social commentary when, they're reading more into it and they're trying to sell the sizzle instead of the steak.
Pac-Man is a ball with eyelashes.
Exactly.
Well,
pixel sculpt balls.
The swap version of Pac-Man. That's all it is. It's like, how can we do a sequel? Let's do Ms. Pac-Man. Oh, look, it's sold.
And Pac-Man Jr., things like that. But they're selling the sizzle, not the steak, is what the point is, really.
Exactly.
If there was no games with female protagonists, there'd be a massive issue. And I'd love to see more, like I said. But, make Call of Duty, make all these games. I don't... what's the problem with them?
Being someone like myself, I was talking to Lee about this the other day. We had a discussion about the Metroid series, and I think the most vile game in that series is Metroid the Other M. And I talked about the fact how Samus is been looked at as someone she's battling on her own. She's basically always the hero. She's this bounty hunter that always fights for what's right. And then in the Other M, they make her into this cowardly little woman who has to, dignify herself.
His words hurt me.
Yeah.
And she's always deferential to her commanding officer who's male. Well, I've always found that really, really, distasteful for Other M.
Yeah, and it basically disrespects the character in general. And I think the thing what people like Sarkeesian are trying to do, And the thing that people see is, she is the kind of the face of the feminist community. It's kind of like when Hitler was the face of the Germans. You know, you had Nazi Germany, you had this person who he didn't share the ideals of these people, but he was there in the forefront. And because this person's the loudest, because she says that she speaks for feminism and feminist ideals, and you've got a lot of psychopaths that follow her, that's where the problem lies, because people see that and think, oh, okay, every feminist is like this woman. Do you get what I mean? And that's where the problem, I remember I saw a review she did on Bayonetta, and she didn't even research the game. She just basically just did a fly review, you know? Put herself, sat down, oh, she's a mum, she has a kid, no, she's not a mum eater, what the hell are you talking about? You're talking tripe. And it shows that she's only in this, and this is the thing, when we look at that, as someone, like a father myself, I've got 2 daughters, and she sits there and says, I want this in schools, I want my word to be in schools. That's scary to me.
That is.
And I'll tell you why.
That is scary. And as a feminist, like I said before, was she against Bayonetta, I'm guessing, because, you know, she's a sexy character.
I think so, yeah.
I loved Bayonetta. I loved the game. Yeah, she is wearing skimpy clothing, but that was such an enjoyable game. And it was, I found it to be a bit tongue-in-cheek.
I was just going to say that. It was presented as being that.
She's, you know,
she was really over the top.
Stand because her hair was so much.
Yeah.
Overly curvy. Yeah, but it's it was such a fun
She has gun high heels, for fuck's sake.
Exactly.
Really?
I'd wear them.
I mean, that game.
Freaking Sarah Palin is probably getting those developed now. But I mean,
it's the whole thing of I've heard this, which is terrifies me, which is if you're a feminist, you can't wear makeup, you can't wear high heels, and I'm like, fuck you, honestly. I'll wear whatever the hell I want.
But this
doesn't mean I'm going to be subservient to all men.
It's a cultural opinion that's become something in the form of a negative stereotype. And I did a video a while back on Anita Sarkeesian talking about the fact how I feel that she's detrimental to young women like my daughters who are growing up in society now, and they will think that this is feminism. They'll look at it and say, what she's saying is feminism. This is the truth. It's like, I remember talking to my ex-wife, and she was sitting there looking at Kim Kardashian and went, this woman is a strong and powerful woman. I looked at her in the face and I went, do not show this fucking shit to my daughters. And she goes, why? Don't you understand? She's a self-made millionaire. I was like, no, she's a millionaire because she's basically shown her body. She's shown her body parts off. She did a sex tape.
Yeah,
and she's exposed her entire life for everybody to see.
Exploitation. She's exploited herself.
And and I went to her, this isn't a strong and powerful woman. This is someone who was an attention seeker that has made money off of being an attention seeker. That's pretty much what it is.
The largest problem... Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. But it bugs me. And when I see stuff like Sarkeesian, I basically prompted up and said, right, as soon as you said you're going to expose this to children, this is your problem. Because you're sitting there and you're saying that there are the first thing she said was, there are no female gamers out there. There's no such thing as female gamers. It's a male-dominated market. I went out there and went, I can name off the top of my hand 5 of my female friends who could kick my ass in an FPS shooter. I can name 5 of them who are actually better than me at gaming, right? And I'm a hardcore gamer. I've got freaking every single console. I own every single collection, and I play like freaking 60 to 70 hours a week of gaming when I have the time. You basically sit there when someone like says stuff like this, you're like, what?
I'm sorry, when Sims exploded in popularity, like, slightly more than half of those gamers were women.
Oh, one of my best friends.
Yeah, I love it.
All she tells me about is Sims 4.
Yeah,
she's
I've
just
had
addicted
Sims
to it.
since the Sims first one. Literally, and if I had a better laptop, I'd get Sims 4. But, yeah, it's...
Yeah, mine's pretty bog on specs.
So I don't basically exist.
But this is the problem. This is what, when she started, if you go through the beginning of her videos,
No, I only
when
watched
she
a
started,
few for each.
this is the stuff that she went and started, like, writhing about. And I was sitting there just looking at it as a very confused gamer going, you know, because I wanted to check her stuff out. I was like, she's done this Kickstarter, let's have a look and see what this is. And, you know, it got to the point where it became that she was taking tons of shots at people. Now, but before I continue, Ashton, you're going to be leaving us now?
Yeah, I have some things I have to take care of.
No problem. Would you like to promote your Twitter and also your channel if you have one?
Yeah, I have a Twitter it's at @Ash_effect, Ash Effect. And I don't have a YouTube channel right now, but I'm thinking of making one for the future.
Cool. Thank you for being on the show. You've been a great guest of ours, and you know, don't be a stranger. We'd love to have you on again.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Yes.
All right, thanks.
It's great meeting you.
Yeah, you too. I'll be seeing you.
Awesome.
Now, continuing on the subject, this is the problem. It's gone to the point where, as we can say now, guys, we're past the second hour now. We're going into like the second half of the second hour, talking about this and the fact that Gamergate spawned from something that was about two individuals. One was the individual Zoe Quinn, and it was exposed that a journalist,
Nathan Grayson,
basically was taking his journalistic integrity and breaching it by being in a relationship with her when he shouldn't have done, because he was reviewing a lot of her games. Now, the questionable part, he states that he reviewed her stuff and gave them like A+ reviews and whatnot on Polygon and Kotaku, and was writing puff pieces about her before he got into the relationship with her. The fact that he had feelings for this woman basically shows that he shouldn't have reviewed any of her stuff in the first place. Am I right or am I wrong here?
No, you're right. It's integrity and compromise of integrity.
Right. So when you look at stuff like that, don't you feel that it's basically, this is where the corruption kind of explodes? This was the jump off point. Anita, you were going to say something?
I said depends. I don't think that it's that black and white. I mean, it's only an issue because what happened. I mean, you can have feelings for someone and still stay impartial. And maybe he did honestly like those games. Or if he did it just because they had
I can tell
that
you for
it's
a fact.
obviously a problem.
Yeah,
issue.
he wasn't.
I don't
being
think it's that
impartial.
black and white. It's not, because I think, I'm sure there's loads of journalists out there who have feelings and they still are doing their job and being impartial.
But okay, hold on a second.
Mm.
We're making a lot of statements, but here's the facts. The facts of the matter are, Nathan wrote an article and he mentions Depression Quest, and he did this article on January 8th of 2014. And then on March 31st, Nathan mentioned by name Zoe Quinn discussing the failed reality TV show, which really doesn't involve a game. Yeah, it might have put her name out there, but it wasn't really promoting anything. And then the editor-in-chief of Kotaku went on record as stating they began a romantic relationship in finger quote early April. Now March 31st and early April are some vague numbers. They do seem like there is something shady there. However, we're going on the basis that there was, something involved. There was manipulation or sex granted for publicity or something like that. We have to put the pitchforks and torches down for a moment and actually think, what proof do we have that actually happened?
Well, that's where it becomes skewed, because her ex-boyfriend, who basically indicts the fact that she was having an affair with this gentleman, basically states that Zoe Quinn was sleeping with him for these reviews.
That was disproven.
I think that should be dismissed completely. That just sounds like vitriol from an ex.
That was disproven. That was all manipulated behind the scenes, where he went into an IRC chat and he got together with some black hat individuals who wanted to make a smear campaign. They took the information that was slightly shady and they spewed it across and they made it look like this big long thing. But again, that was manipulated and proven to be fake, which is also kind of demeaning. Going back to real quick what Miguel said with it's going to be scary when this goes public. I don't really know what he defines as, this going public, because I read the article that was published like a month ago in Wired that basically showed the whole thing and said about, look, the gamers got manipulated by this and the media got manipulated and people got on the bandwagon. It basically made all gamers look like misogynistic assholes. So we have to be very careful with that.
Wired isn't mainstream. I'm talking about the big three networks. I'm talking about when you start seeing the whole Gamergate thing covered on CNN or MSNBC or even Fox News or any of the major radio heads.
It was also covered on HuffPost or The Guardian, one of those two. I mean, that's it's not too mainstream, but that's definitely not a video game centric publication.
It's still a niche website. Like I said, when your average everyday person has access to it is what I'm talking about. Okay. Like I said, when you see a Limbaugh or a Rachel Maddow or somebody like that talking about it, something
Rachel
like that.
Rachel Maddow's actually being asked to actually cover this. There's part of the letter writing campaign now for Gamergate and Not Your Shield. They're actually trying to appeal to Maddow.
I'm actually looking forward to that then. I've always been a fan of hers. But listen, just as a heads up, I got to take a phone call, and I don't know if I'll be able to come back. Yep. So I think I'm going to hop out early, guys. So I'll leave you guys to finish up the talk amongst yourselves. Is it all right if I get my plugs in before I go, Burhan?
Go for it, Miguel.
All right, folks. If you love I Got Gameplay and you want to hear more about the Retro Unlived Network, you can check out the Untitled Movie Show. We do a show every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. Except for next week. Next week, I'm unfortunately, due to my job situation, they need to work extra hours. So we will be doing next week's show on Monday at 8 o'clock. It'll be our monthly news episode where we kind of discuss the month's movie news. And then after that, I believe after that, is that the 22nd, if I'm not mistaken? Oh, no, wait, it's Wednesday night, by the way, yeah. The show we normally do is on Wednesdays. It used to be on Tuesdays is why. So yeah, every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock is the Untitled Movie Show, except for next week is Monday night. Wednesday, I believe our next show is on the 22nd. That is I think it's a special that Dave Wade wants to do, which is our co-host. He wants to do a Back to the Future retrospective. So we'll be doing that on the 22nd. So check us out on there. Next week, Monday night is next week's show. That's our news bit. So yeah. Untitled Movie Show, Wednesday nights, set for next week, 8 o'clock, blogtalkradio.com, the Retro Unlimited channel. Sorry about that, guys.
Awesome sauce.
All right, I will see you.
Yeah, go on.
I will see you guys later. Burhan, I will see you when we do the show next week.
Cool. Later on, mate.
Care.
Later.
Take it easy.
Right, so as we continue on and go on to the closing moments, so Lee, tell us a little bit more about the facts that have been uncovered here.
Well, the information was presented to me actually a few weeks after I had been first informed about the whole Zoe Quinn, her ex-boyfriend, and Nathan Grayson kind of expose. There was a whole article written about it, and immediately, I'm not going to lie, I was like, good. I'm glad to see that somebody is keeping people honest and journalistic integrity. And I'm glad to see that somebody who was trading favors for sex and publicity got caught red-handed. And then I received information where apparently, and the IRC chat that was her ex-boyfriend was in and discussing this, there was actually a bot in there that I'm assuming was presented by Zoe Quinn because she's the person who presented the information to the public and to the FBI inadvertently, or so she claimed. And it basically said, it goes through the entire smear campaign of how we're going to take this information and we're going to make it, into a big story and going to get everyone talking and fighting each other. I read through that multiple times. It was a difficult read. It's actually, I think there's roughly 4,000 pages of IRC chat. Yeah. There was a website called, let me see here, We Hunt Mammoths. and I can provide the post where they actually got the entire 4,000 page chat in the IRC chat, and they went through it, and they confirmed that it not only looks shady, but it's a blatant smear campaign that was very, very well orchestrated.
So do you feel that they've basically manipulated the situation?
Yes, I believe what they did, and this goes back into, they got certain people, they took something that looked like a news story, which I said, okay, he mentions her in an article, not about a game, but just in an article, and then a few weeks later began a romantic relationship. They took that information and spun it into this adultery and exchanged sex for publicity and this big thing. And that was enough to get the people, the gamers, who just look at things at face value, who aren't, that not everybody sits there and cites sources and goes and looks at multiple opinions. Well, we'll read an article, we'll read a headline, and we'll see if a good friend agrees on it, and, we'll agree on it. And we basically picked up the pitchforks and the torches and went marching against someone, and it was a complete manipulation from underside. And you have to imagine that the manipulation in the first part was those, finger quote, right-wing Republican gamers, which I hate to give anybody who's a Republican or a conservative a bad name. I'm just using that metaphorically speaking, where, gamers who just look at other people entering their realm with a smirk or a dirty look as though this is my turf, marching against a common enemy. But here, the common enemy was guised over, but the real enemy was feminism. It was maintaining, females from having a voice and stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. There are a few things that are questionable through the whole situation. And that's
like
why
the fun young cannibalists, capitalists.
Well, yeah, I like to provide all the facts too, because for example, Zoe's monthly income on, I don't know if it was on Patreon or something like that, but her monthly income tripled the month that went public. Now, can I say that was the motivation for her to do that? No. I still think that the overall manipulation was with the IRC chat, the black hats, and her ex-boyfriend manipulating the situation to make it look worse. However, she did profit off of it. So, I mean, you gotta look at it both ways. Is it smart for her to profit off of it? Or was she actually a part of the whole thing? That's kind of neither here nor there. The thing I'm worried about is I'm a gamer, and I actually picked up the pitchfork and the torch, and I was being manipulated. That pisses me off. That's what the problem is here.
Well, she was effectively, what got me angry about it is, oh look, this woman's sleeping around, and that is the thing everyone got angry about. If it was a man just shagging everything, no one would care.
Oh.
And that's what made me angry about it, is so she has sex. So what? Kind of. That was my first reaction, was, she had sex, who cares?
If she had sex for the benefit of publicity or getting a review, that is an issue. But honestly, even if that was the issue, nobody should be pointing fingers at Zoe Quinn. They should be pointing fingers at Nathan Grayson, because he is the writer who had a lapse of integrity.
So that's who I point.
Well, that's where the fingers are being pointed at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That thing is, it's not being pointed at Quinn.
It was at first it was that they pointed at Quinn. She was the harlot at first, definitely.
Well, the problem is, the way I see her situation as, there should have never been any question. If he was going to write the articles for her, he shouldn't have been in a relationship with her in the first place. That's my, or even initiated any sort of relationship because they knew what was going to happen. Right? Consenting adults and all that. Secondly, for me, as I said before on a previous IGG, I stated that she's not the person to blame in this situation, even though I don't agree with what she did. He's to blame because of the fact that I feel like most people probably don't agree with me, and there are those who are total knobheads and want to troll everyone. he basically threw away any integrity he had as a journalist for a bit of TNA. You know, that because he wanted sex with this person who he was infatuated with. That's the problem.
Yes.
And thus, any credibility that her game may have had or that she may have had, it's destroyed that due to the fact that it doesn't matter what the date was, he still wrote articles on her behalf. He still did loads of stuff for her. We don't even know if they were in contact at the time. But as soon as you do that, it's like me, basically, I'm trying to think of any gamers that I looked up to. Instance, the new Halo studio, 343, I think it is. I think the woman who works for them looks hot, right? If I basically played the game and gave it 5-star reviews and then you find out I was in a relationship with her, who would be in the wrong, her or me?
Well, how it was portrayed in the media was that she instigated it to get those reviews.
Well, the thing is, no,
That's
it wasn't by the media. It was instigated by her boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend, who was jilted about the situation. And you know what? I'd be pissed too.
Mm.
If I found out my girlfriend was like knocking about with some journalist, I'd be pissed. You know, I'm not saying
you wouldn't launch into an internet campain over.
Oh no, of course not. I would have called her a cow to her face and then moved on.
Yeah, that's the adult way to resolve it.
Do you know what I mean? Had a bit of a yelling match and then leave it at that. But the fact is, he was immature. He decided to post all this shit online, but it did one thing that it was supposed to, which is it did enlighten everybody, on the internet to the fact that these people are corrupt. And I'm not talking about people like Quinn and Sarkeesian, who, no offense, they are known for the shit they're pulling. You know, Quinn, as you said, like Lee, Quinn's Patreon tripled in terms of donations over the fact she showed that IRC chat thing. Sarkeesian, how she basically likes to get trolls in her videos so that her donations triple because it's affecting her cause, so to speak.
Yeah, but I mean, in some cases, the Patreon tripling could be just a coincidence. I don't think everyone goes into it thinking, oh, I'll do this so I get triple the...
Yeah, no, I don't think she was that smart.
Definitely will use it and go, look.
Yeah, but it's
but...
the whole term of, people are hating me. Look, I need someone to save me.
White Knights!
It became a conversation piece. There's no denying that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fact of the matter that she was privy to it or planned it, like it was premeditated, who knows? But, I mean, somebody once said, if you take away all the information and what remains has to be the truth, no matter how improbable. The fact of the matter is, if it wasn't premeditated, she still took advantage of the situation.
Yeah, she still
That's not
capitalized.
bad, but that's
So
that also.
So you wouldn't have taken the money if something god awful happened to you. You wouldn't take that money. Would you just
What
refuse
god
it?
awful happened?
I'll just tell you this, right? I've had situations arise where I could have done something questionable for cash, and I've never basically taken my morals or used or obscured my own morals in a way for me to get that ton of attention or gain financial gain off of anything. And the reason being is money is a temporary luxury. You know, in the end, you get paid for that one article you write. As soon as the shit hits the fan, as soon as people realize you're not who you say you are and you do not stand for the things that you say you do, your house of cards comes crumbling down. And that's the biggest problem here.
Of course. I just think Zoe Quinn, I don't think she's in a good position. You know, I mean, for me, it seems like she, regardless of what is true, her reputation's kind of shot. I don't think...
Yeah, there's no way she's coming out on top with this one.
Whole manipulation. Do you know what I mean? To me, it seems, I might be wrong. I might be completely wrong. I'm feeling that she's kind of ruined in a way. She might have some money, but does she have...
She's going to come out like Nixon in this.
It sounds incredibly
doing
sexist.
what she wanted to do, because everyone's always going to be like, well, did she do it for the money or not? And Yeah.
Even
And
if it
that's
sounds
the thing.
incredibly sexist, I have to say it. The majority of women that I've known or ever met in my life, would they like to be the center of attention?
Not like this. I wouldn't. Definitely not.
No,
Hate to be.
bad press is still press. You have to understand that.
No, I understand that, but
So, I mean,
they would run a mile from this.
it's the same fucking idea behind a sex tape. Who wants to throw a sex tape out there? Well, nobody. Well, it might make you famous and make you rich. Well, fuck it. I'll give it a try.
Well,
Yeah.
look at, you've got people like Kim Kardashian, you've got people like Paris Hilton who made themselves famous on it. What was that other one's name, from Teen Mom?
If I ever
the anal
do
queen.
anything remotely like that, Michael, promise me you'll just shoot me in the head.
I
When
would,
I've lost
I-
all
I-
hope in life.
I would just tie you up to an electric chair and just give you shock therapy. That's,
But like everything else in this, we're focusing a lot on Quinn. We're not focusing on a lot of other things that were the other shoe that dropped. We're spending a lot of time on Quinn, actually.
yeah, so let's
kind of move along from this because there are a lot of other stickling matters that are a lot bigger elephants in the room than Quinn. Quinn was only the start of this. I mean, you have the mailing list, which Quinn was on. 100 gaming journalists, video game industry professionals, etc., that were on that list. And there were even conversations revealed about Kotaku and other people trying to steer the news away from this, trying to influence things, the anti-Gamergate stuff that came up, and, trying to be pretty much silencing everything in that. Quinn's a chapter in this, not the story.
Yep, I agree.
So, let's focus on those. So, Sean, would you like to take us there?
Well, I'm trying to remember the name of the website, but they dropped that, this list was dropped. And yes, this list was also dropped a couple of years ago, but not in this intensity. I believe it was a Google Groups, chat list, mailing list kind of thing where, people would chime in on it. And pretty much, it was pretty much proven that everybody from Microsoft executives or whatever, or I'm trying to remember, EA, Gamasutra, Kotaku, a lot of people are on this list. And some people that aren't actually really participating in this list, but they get, they get the messages and what have you. But pretty much what came out was that this list was here, and it was proven that these people were all in cahoots one way or another. Zoe Quinn's name was referenced as the name on the list, literally who. That's the name that they used for her on the list to kind of, I guess, keep her slightly anonymous. But she was even part and parcel to this list. And this is pretty much where the integrity went out the window, is that they were all pretty much, cahoodling together, or whatever the term is, and trying to pretty much steer things away from this and, using feminism and attacks as a backdrop towards not realizing, these people had influence on, that competition that she was in. She knew the judges on that. Same thing with Phil Fish. It's coming out now that Phil Fish and Fez, they had influence on that and how Fez got so high and mighty and won that contest and such. This, and then they tried to do the whole gaming and gamers are dead. They try to steer things away and try to hurt gamers and that. She was a stepping stone, but she wasn't the main story.
She was kind of the door that opened this whole can of worms.
It's like you walk into a room and you catch a girl naked, but behind you see a whole pile of guns and drugs and money and, things like that. And you're like, oh shit, move to one side. You're pretty cool for a minute, but what's all this? And pretty much, and this is why we now have the letter writing campaigns and Gamergate and Not Your Shield being hashtagged, is because they're still trying to do a lot of this. And they're still trying to steer, attention away from the main subject, which is pretty much that you're getting sites like Kotaku, which say that they're the source for gaming and that, but you're mostly seeing anime reviews and you're seeing a lot of social justice stuff. Like, there was one article I believe was even, how, the opening to Saving Private Ryan should have had women in it or something to that degree. You got people pretty much conferring with each other on how they should be reporting the news and forming things. And as well, you got them trying to put down things like Fine Young Capitalists who wanted to do a women female developers project where they were just wanting to help them. They're not trying to, make any big thing out of it. They're just trying to further the cause. Then you had, these groups not trying to shit all over it pretty much.
And that's the big thing here. It's basically just through this thing where people considered was a war against feminism became a war against questionable journalism, in a sense. And this is what's being happened with Gamergate. They don't seem to understand that what these guys are doing, it's wrong, because they're trying to denounce the people who basically patronize their site for God knows how long.
Yeah. I mean, they're pandering to social justice. And like, kind of going back to the whole Grace and Quinn thing, there's zero distance between the subject and the reporter. Because they're making friends with them, they're going to parties with them, they're dating with them, sleeping with them, financially supporting people that they write about. They're being financially supported by the people that they're writing about. They're getting into business ventures with people that they're writing about. They're profiting from these business ventures. They share PR firms. There's this big flowchart that was shown and shows how much connection is going on. And then they had to change that flowchart because more stuff came out. And now there's another flowchart that they still have to because there's more that's coming out now. Somebody put it into a good analogy of like there's gaming journalism, but then you look at things like Cronkite and things like that, other journalism and they have that integrity, so to speak, now. But that's because that kind of journalism went through its infancy a long time ago, and we're still going through the infancy and the growing pains and things like that. But then, like I said, you got these different groups that are on this Gawker line and stuff like that, and Game of Sutra and that, and they're all sharing PR firms, they're all sharing email lists, and they're all sharing conversations, and they're saying what we should report on and what we shouldn't report on. Instead of it's the news, we should just bloody well report on it. And they're trying now to shoot themselves in the foot unintentionally or intentionally, really, by, insulting their main demographic, the one who gets some clicks. They're resorting to clickbaity articles. They're, like I said about, they're at E3, they're trying to get tabloid journalism out of Reggie Fils-Aimé, who's there, showing off things on the floor, and that to the point where after 3 times they're shut down in a row. I talked about this on a stream that I did a little while back, that Reggie pretty much, after shutting them down, just having a response for everything, just pretty much told us, listen, we're not going to talk about what we have here. This interview's over. I forget who the interviewer was, but he was pretty much kept on trying to, dig up dirty laundry and things like that instead of,
he kept trying to troll Reggie, basically.
Yeah, he kept trying to troll Reggie, and there's a reason why they call him the Reginator. There's a reason why this man runs Nintendo of America. And the reason why he's good at his job. And you're seeing where they're trying to be pitchfork for video gaming, pretty much trying to say, we make the news. And this is what this is all coming down to is, hands are dirty, compromises, there's things that are compromised left, right, and center, and there's no integrity. And people are starting to realize that they can make a difference and that they have choices.
And that's the thing. And so, going on to that, let's talk about what people can do at the moment. What can everybody out there who's listening to this at the moment, what can they do to support this cause, to support Gamergate? Because from what we've basically come to the conclusion today is Gamergate is a positive. It's not a negative. It's not an accusation against feminism. It's not people trying to say that feminists don't belong in gaming. It's a cause that says we are no longer going to support bad journalism.
Exactly. The rational people out there are trying to rationally inform everyone that this is what's going on. And even with the people who are organizing these writing campaigns now, Intel has pulled advertising from Game Sutra. And as of today, it is the University of Advancing Technology, UAT. They're no longer advertising with them because of the letter writing campaign. And the hashtags you can pay attention to on Twitter are Gamergate and hashtag Not Your Shield. And they're reminding people to be rational in your letter writing, but they're targeting people like NVIDIA. They're targeting people like Sears. All these companies that are advertising on Game Sutra, Kotaku, and things like that, they're letting them know that you're advertising, you're entering agreements with people, and you're advertising on sites that are highly biased, tabloid journalism. This is not something like, say, the New York Times. This is not something like, just reputable journalism. This is mudslinging. This is, personal influence. This is people trying to play in their own little sphere. And it hasn't come over them yet, but Kotaku and everybody there are slowly realizing they're just one little microcosm in a big bloody pool. And when that settles in, you might see things starting to be towards more playing ball.
But that's the big thing here. It's basically the fact is you shouldn't be sitting around saying to yourself that shouldn't be, that these guys should be allowed to get away with this. You shouldn't, if you question anything and you feel that these sites are doing something that's promoting negative press, don't support them.
Exactly.
Because once you support them, you are basically messing with these sites. You're allowing these sites to justify their procedures and say, hey, it's okay, we're allowed to do that, when they're not. And the best thing to do is keep writing those letters, keep supporting Gamergate, hashtag Gamergate, make sure that you're active on Twitter, that you're active on Facebook, and that you keep supporting the cause. Also, make sure that you check out a few of the people that we contacted tonight. I'll just put their names out there as well, just to see what there's going on. Ashton Lute, you can find him basically at Ash Effect on Twitter. You can also find Jade3Fox there as well. She's Regina George, one of the big supporters here of Gamergate. You also have Lizzie F620 as well on Twitter. Basically, just add those guys, follow them. They'll give you news and updates on what's going on in terms of Gamergate itself.
There's a Facebook group as well.
There is a Facebook
Corruption
group?
in Video Gaming Journalism. Video Game Journalism. Sorry, Corruption in Video Game Journalism. Is a community page.
And if you're someone who's starting out in video game journalism and you want to basically get ahead, you've got a YouTube channel and you want to get views, here's an idea. Stick to your integral guns. If you're going to review a game, review it properly. Don't sit there and basically give it a great review because someone's giving you a free game. Don't give something a great review because someone's bashing their eyelids at you or because you're infatuated with someone. Be impartial because that's what journalists do. From any form of media you go into, from television, from printed media, if you basically go to political journalism, to entertainment journalism, it's always unbiased. They will never ever give you a story and do a hate or smear campaign against anyone. So make sure that if you are looking to get into this game, that you do things properly. We are here to enlighten, we are here to educate, and we are here to split things right down the middle. We're never here to attack anyone. So that being said, would anyone like to have their final thoughts? Anina?
My final thoughts. Well, a part of me is glad that this sort of came out. That people are aware now at how, incestuous the whole thing's been. And hopefully people are being called out for what they're, for their actions. So they won't get away with, controlling people's views, basically.
No, I agree.
Well, that's all I really have on the subject. I can't think of any way to change it because I'd say I'm only a gamer. I don't really know I don't know many developers. I don't know many journalists. I'm just from the gaming side, just from the gamer side, consumer side. And it's so awful. You're going to lose trust in it, in everyone, if you find out that they've controlled what you can see. Yeah. That's what tyrants do.
Yeah, it's pretty Orwellian.
Yes, exactly. It's, if it keeps on going, it will put people off gaming altogether. If it just gets worse and worse and worse. Especially to think about it.
No, I agree. And that's the thing. I think when it comes down to it, censorship is never an option. It should never be an option for anybody. And once it becomes an option,
it's not a democracy anymore.
Yeah, it's exactly, it's undemocratic. So going off from that, Lee, what about yourself? Final thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's best for us to be very careful on what information we take in.
Mm-hmm.
This has been working for me. It's very general. But every time, regardless of the news story, every single time I see a news story or I read an article, I ask myself a question. Is this article intended to make me love something or somebody, or is it intended to make me hate something or somebody? And that's how I kind of try to avoid, the bullshit. Because if there's something that's trying to inspire hatred within you for somebody else or something, you have to kind of question and look for another opinion. Spreading love isn't something that's going to cause feminism or rape threats. But spreading hate, even if it sounds like it might be positive and good, it could very easily be like promoting something else more vile and evil in the background. So we need to be very, very careful about that. Ask questions. Look for information. If you're going to hate somebody, something, or a place or whatever, make sure you're damn well sure you know why.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically on that one. And Sean, what about you?
Make sure you do the research, like he said. Make sure that you know how things are represented as well. An analogy I like using is back a few months back when people were all up in arms because Facebook Messenger, all of a sudden people were deleting it because, it says here that it's going to access your pictures, it's going to access your camera, it's going to access your data and that. And you had Fox News people like that saying, okay, so it's going to run up your power, your cell phone bill, it's going to run you out of minutes, it's going to, chew up your data, things like that, and it's going to do this all without your consent. No, nobody ever said that, but people run with it. And then, you get a lot of people who rely on that without going to the source, and they just go by the way something is presented. In this case, like Kotaku or somebody like that will present something without you questioning, I think that's a little bit bullshit. And then you do your own research and you find out, oh shit, they are actually trying to deflect blame here, or they're trying to misrepresent this for their own gain. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Don't be a sheep. Don't conform to mob mentality. Listen to the mobs and hear what they're saying and then learn whether or not this is true. And this is the thing. It's the message, not the medium.
And that's the thing, peeps. When you look at stuff like this, make sure you develop your own opinion. Make sure you understand what information that you're taking in, and don't just put the blame on a section of people. We've had debates recently. I've been involved in a couple of debates, one over feminism, such as this one, and also another over like the state of Islam. And the amount of views that come out, the amount of people that debate are great, because we get to hear different points of view and different perspectives. But also, you also get to hear the vile hatred from others who just, don't want to understand and don't want to be proved wrong. And you don't want to be in that mix, because those are the people that don't further causes. Those are the people that bring negative publicity to those causes and sway away from those causes doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's being right and being justifiable and showing that they're trying to support those who are being wronged. And that's what Gamergate is about. It's showing support for those who are being wronged and showing that they can actually bring a lot more to the table, because there is a very negative thing going on in gaming journalism, and it needs to be straightened out. And these people need to be held accountable for their actions, because no one is infallible. And that's the main thing, guys. And, everybody out there who keeps supporting this, just know that I Got Gameplay is 110% behind you, in terms of this. And I myself, I no longer use Kotaku. I no longer use Polygon. I've never used Gamasutra. Any other sites that come out basically as part of this, I will stop using them as well. Because as far as I'm concerned, they are not part of the gaming medium anymore. Because they are doing things that are not, basically they're unjournalistic. They're not integrable. They have no right there. So, to those ladies and gentlemen, to everybody out there, I want to say a great big thank you to everyone that is fighting on behalf of Gamergate. And for those who are on one side of the fence or the other, hopefully this podcast can sway you to maybe a for or against. Who knows? Now, going on from that, let's go on to plugs. Anina, plug away.
Plug away. You can find me on Twitter and Facebook. I'm Anina Kaski. That's ANNINA KASKI. Find me there. Say hello. I'll say hello back.
Awesome. Lee?
The only thing I'm plugging right now is Harmony of Heroes. That album, I'm still loving it. That can be picked up at harmonyofheroes.net. Until further notice, that is my life entirely.
And also, Sean, what about yourself?
Well, I'm on Twitter, but I actually have my Facebook set up, so every time I update my Facebook, it goes to my Twitter anyway. And same thing Instagram, Diatlus79, DAIATLUS79. But I go by my real name, Sean J. Michelin on Facebook. But I have a YouTube channel as well. Like I said, it's been on a bit of a hiatus for the last couple of months, but it will be back on the go within the next couple of weeks, actually. I'm on the mic that I just got today, so I can do better narration instead of the crappy little Turtle Beach headset that I had. I chime in a bit on Gamergate. More often than not, I just make sure when I look through my feed, a friend of mine last week, or the week before was, putting up a lot of, articles that were, pretty much like 2 and 3 months old, and I was just like, no, a lot's happened since then. But, yeah, that's pretty much it for me,
What's
now.
What's your channel name?
Diatless79.
Okay.
I do have some rant stuff on there that I did, as well as, some tech tutorials. I'm big on the Raspberry Pi there with the RetroPie project, and actually I'm going to be dropping a new video on that because version 2.2 came out. The previous tutorials I had were for version 1.9, and a lot has changed since then. So I'll put that actually in the chat right now.
Right. And ladies and gentlemen, as I said, you can catch us every Saturday at 8 p.m., which is I Got Gameplay on Virtual Radio, Retro Unlim Network. You can check out the Retro Unlim Network's Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Unlim Radio. You can also check us out on Twitter at Unlim Radio as well for the Retro Unlim Network. You can also catch the I Got Gameplay at I Got Gameplay. You can find me at Michael Burhan. Of course, I've got so many Twitter handles, haven't I? How do I manage all these accounts? You can also find me on Facebook, facebook.com/I Got Gameplay, facebook.com/NerdGenius, and also facebook.com Michael Burhan. You can also, if you like this show, if you love our projects, if you love what we do, you can support us on Patreon if you go to patreon.com/NerdGenius and donate $1 a month or more. It helps us spread the cost of what we need to do, get better studio equipment, and also helps me to help the hosts as well. And hopefully if we get enough in terms of donations, we can put out new content and maybe even start paying people. So yay. So thank you very much for everyone that's supported us, everyone that listens to these shows. Without you, there'd be no I Got Gameplay. We've gone up to over 10,000 listens now. In terms of show listens, it's been great. And, you can find, of course, and all those who are supporting me, youtube.com/TheNerdGenius. You can find me on Dailymotion as well, dailymotion.com/NerdGenius. And, you can also find myself, doing everything and anything, really. I'm currently, putting together the Kickstarter for our Silent Hill project that we're currently doing, for Enigma Entertainment. That includes, loads of stars that have signed on for the project. So, guys and gals, when it comes out, I will be flooding the interwebs, because we need to raise over £150,000 for this project, in order to get everybody up there to Canada and get us to shoot in Vancouver. So, that's pretty much it. Expect a review of Destiny by the end of the week. Also, you'll expect videos from Play Expo, and loads of new content coming in the next couple of days. So, I spoil you, don't I, people? So thank you very much, ladies and gents. And from Anina Kaski, from Lee Garasich, from Sean Michelin, from Miguel Leon, and also from our lovely, lovely guest as well, I'm Michael Burhan saying that we've got gameplay. Have you?